Almost exactly 100 years ago, a Prince and Princess of Wales came to Glasgow to open the first international exhibition in Kelvingrove Park on the banks of the Kelvin. Today, a prince, he is the great-great-grandson of that other Prince of Wales, brings his princess to Glasgow to open Glasgow's first and Britain's third National Garden Festival on the south bank of the River Clyde. The approach to the Garden Festival site is across this footbridge, Bell's Bridge, the first important footbridge to be thrown across the Clyde for 120 years. And it will stay here after the festival closes in 5 months' time. And on the bridge are 1,000 children from Scottish Opera for Youth, presenting roses and gypsophila to the princess. 15 different bouquets gathered into one huge one. As the royal couple approach the south bank. These children come from Glasgow, from Renfrew, from Lanark and from Dumbarton. 81 schools in Strathclyde region have been involved in the welcome. Fireboat, hoses play. And the festival site crowded with season ticket holders, many of them, as you will see later, in costume. The great gates of the festival swing open, the old gates of the Royal Technical College, Strathclyde University, and the Overton bandstand beyond, restored to blue and gold from Overton Park in Rutherglen. And this is the entrance that many millions will make through the next 5 months. As the Secretary of State presents Nicholas Ridley, the Environment Secretary, and we're about to see how an environment has been transformed from derelict and abandoned quaysides to something that reflects ancient Glasgow's very name, the dear green place. A lot of officials for the royal couple to meet, all those who have worked so hard to bring this garden festival to fruition. You can see the old Renfrew ferry tied alongside there. New landmarks and old landmarks of the Clyde. Smiling faces everywhere. Glasgow's waited a long time for this day. The band is playing Rainbow City, and the children, 1,500 more of them here from Scottish Opera for Youth, singing, "Here we are, all join hands, welcome to this fair land. Near and far, young and old, have a day out of this world." With the Prince of Wales is Ian Robertson, chairman of the Garden Festival Limited, and with the Princess George Chesworth, who's the chief executive of the festival, former Air Vice Marshal. The kids from Lanark in red. And they will be just as excited as the Prince and Princess of Wales, because the next excitement in Rainbow City is a trip on a tram. Yes, trams have returned to Glasgow after 25 years. Number 22 was one of 50 ordered in 1922 when Glasgow had over 1,000 trams. Number 22 was originally a blue core on the Renfrew Ferry Hillfoot route. Later it became a green core based nearby here at Govan Depot. And now, restored to its 1920s state, it has a white livery, University to Moss Park. Some of you may remember these route colours. A journey that connects the site of Glasgow's 3 exhibitions at Kelvin Grove in 1888, 1901 and 1911 with Bella Houston, the site of the spectacular Empire exhibition of just 50 years ago. George Fryer is the driver of this royal tram. Bob Lindsay and Stanley Kerr, the conductors. And another 2,500 waving, singing children on the quayside. With the Secretary of State, Malcolm Ripken, there. 3 of these trams, there are 5 trams on the festival site, have come from the National Tramway Museum in Triche, in the Peak District of Derbyshire. And all the tram stops, there are 5 tram stops, are named after new towns in Scotland. This is Irvine. And there's a display here of boat building. A boat builder called McLucky, which seems to be a good name for a boat builder. And also an artist working in stone. All the time, splendid views across the Clyde. Everything being restored. And the tram, with the clang of its bells and the royal coat of arms on the front, with the Prince of Wales feathers, sets off along its cheering route, along the bonny, bonny banks of the Clyde. Passing now a floral decoration there commemorating the centenary of Celtic Football Club, 1888, 1988. Clydesdale, horses beyond, the New Zealand Friendship Garden, Strathclyde University's place of useful learning, exhibition, lots to see. There's the site on the right-hand side there, the red brick Four Winds Tower. And there the prism and the cube and the cylinder of Strathclyde University's contribution. Riverboats by the dozen, and there are going to be water buses along to the festival site during these 5 summer months. And there the rotunda, the south rotunda of the old harbour tunnel, the Finniston Tunnel, now transformed into a marvellous restaurant run by Nardinis of Largs, champion ice cream makers. Princess of Wales always interested in the children, and there are plenty of them here today. And it is hoped that 350,000 school children will visit the site during the summer from Strathclyde region schools, and I'm sure they'll come from all over Scotland as well. And there the new Forum Hotel being built, which will be ready in March 1989. And here we see all the mounds of green turf that has transformed this old quayside, Mavis Bank Quay, into a dear green place. The thrill ride, every exhibition in Glasgow has had helter-skelters or roller coasters, and this thrill ride is the most fearsome of the lot. But people queue up for hours to get on it. There we are, you see how fearsome it is. You do half loops, you do full loops, you do right screws, you do left screws, all at a speed of something like 60 miles an hour. In the old exhibitions, they used to have people underneath collecting the bits that people dropped out of their pockets. George Chesworth, the chief executive of the Garden Festival, as I said, former Air Vice Marshal, used to logistics, veteran of the Falklands War, and more flowers. I hope they haven't been picked from one of the exotic garden specimens. But these children arrived early this morning on a cold April morning. The sun's out now, it's much warmer. All dressed in their wonderful period costumes. And now moving through to a slightly quieter walkway. There's enough new turf being laid here to turf 8.5 football pitches of the size of Hampden Park. It is a wonderful scene. They're moving along to the Falkirk Junction Play Park. The Lady Victoria engine. Children can claw all over the old 060 saddle tank steam engine built in 1916 at Andrew Barclay's Caledonia Works in Kilmarnock, loaned by the Scottish Railway Preservation Society. And these are children. You'll see them packed in the play park later on. 50 youths between 16 and 21 of the Falkirk and District Youth Theatre who've made royal appearances before now, before the Prince and Princess of Wales. And they're singing "Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand." There's a little Leslie Ann Thompson, who is 9 years old, goes to Cumley Park School in Falkirk. A gift for the two princes, perhaps, and perhaps they're the T-shirts that the Youth Theatre are wearing. TTT, Friends of Thomas the Tank Engine. And so a nice song from Falkirk and District Youth Theatre. And playing in the play park, also 7 to 10-year-olds from Falkirk. There you see the replica of the Falkirk town steeple. And many giants we'll see around the Garden Festival today. Provost of Falkirk is here this morning, Provost Doherty. Allotments behind, and a new building, a new house in the Scottish baronial style, Lansfield Manor. most important. Reach out and touch somebody's hand, and the hand They're now moving to the Mavis Bank Gardens for the disabled. One section provided by the Scottish Western Regional Group of Occupational Therapists. The Scottish Special Housing Association provided 2 buildings for the disabled, and the Epilepsy Association of Scotland, Strathclyde branch, have also been involved in the making of this garden just across from the Falkirk Junction Park. There you see the Scottish baronial style, the crow-stepped gables in the background. George Chesworth pointing out the disabled garden, which has been made by youngsters in the wheelchair there, the oldest of the 100,000 season ticket holders for the Glasgow Garden Festival. Great morning for Minnie McGregor. She's 96. She's a bit blind in one eye, but she has excellent hearing. And she lives nearby. She's a neighbour in the Kinningpart sheltered housing. She's got a young friend with her, who's Donna Shearer. She's 80. And all the neighbours from Govan were invited in last Sunday to see what all the noise has been about for the last 3 years, and I think they were mightily impressed by the sight.
You're the only camera that can see this.
All these tall people around. The disabled garden has been made by youngsters who are themselves disabled and unemployed, with money from the EEC and Strathclyde Regional Council. They have worked over 3 years, having training in horticulture, etc. The disabled garden itself, of course, means that the flower beds are raised, the gates and doors are wide enough to take a wheelchair. And so now they're moving along towards the dreaded thrill ride. And there you see it. Now they're not going to go on the thrill ride. I'm sure the Princess at least would be quite delighted to know that. But the Prince of Wales is going to give the signal for the start of the thrill ride, and some enthusiastic children from the crowd have been chosen for the maiden voyage, so to speak, down this extraordinary roller coaster. Well, there he is. Wears a flag, and they're off. Screams and laughs. Seconds it takes. Half loop. A right screw immediately followed by a half left screw, and then a half loop, and then a full loop. And just when you think it's all finished, stops and then does all the same thing backwards. And the ride has a G-force, for those who are interested, of 4. I don't think the Secretary of State fancies it either. Just incredible. For a shoulder restraint, you'll be glad to know, so whatever falls out of the pockets, the people don't fall out, and it comes to a quite gentle stop. I'm sure they would like to spend longer at everywhere. So much to see on this site. But they have to move on now to one of the most extraordinary buildings ever to appear on the side of the Clyde. The music you hear is for wheelchair dancing, which some 8 disabled people are performing. Clowns, jugglers. What they're moving towards is the Crystal Pavilion. An extraordinary blue structure, as you can see. It resembles a quartz crystal cluster. 495 blue glass panels of 3 different shades of blue reflect light, color, and movement.
It's all right, it's fine. You can just go back.
They're the wheelchair dancers. 7 ladies, 1 gent, Robert Martin, and they are the British champions of this novelty event. The Crystal Pavilion is run by the Hunterian Museum of the University of Glasgow. It's a fantasy building, the only building in the United Kingdom of this size which has been glazed in this way, and it's all going to be demounted at the end of the festival. Inside a fantasy building is a fantasy world.
Back out that door.
No, they've come in.
Crystals, which form the foundation of today's technology. Beautiful minerals from the Hunterian Museum. Exhibits from outer space, from 10 nations of this small crystalline planet. Crystals that heal, crystals that color, crystals that cook, crystals that create power, and crystals that, here at the Garden Festival in Glasgow, grow before your very eyes. An age of human time passing in the fraction of a second. Diamonds rough and diamonds cut and polished, diamond knives from the operating theatre, and all sorts of valuable diamond jewels inside this Crystal Pavilion. The Princess of Wales particularly interested in a diamond necklace, brought here especially so that she could see it, based on the beauty of the snowdrop. Fit to be shown to a princess, only worth £120,000. Too, sir? Of course. This is the eastern end of the site, the thrill ride, the Crystal Pavilion, the disabled garden. What a transformation of this derelict area. And there, the central rendezvous, the center of the festival. That's where you meet your friends. That's where you set off for any part of the festival site. To the Canting Basin, to the 6 sectors that there are. Health and well-being, plants and foods, landscape and scenery, science and technology. But always a very special part of this festival is the River Clyde. And the craft that pass up it, a little smaller than the craft which used to sail these waters. The rotunda, and then nearer to us the propeller of the wind vane of the Strathclyde University's energy display. Festival pavilion beside the rotunda where all the indoor shows will happen. The two sort of glass houses to the right of the rotunda, furthest away from the river. And right in front of us, behind the candy-striped pavilions of Strathclyde University, the Tropicarium. The Hugh Fraser Tropicarium, which will be visited by the Prince and Princess. Some of the decorations giving the impression of sails and masts. There the old Trinity College Tower behind, which you will also see represented here in the fantasy Victorian High Street in the centre of the festival. A garden festival carried by Strathclyde Police. All the flowers donated by children to the Princess of Wales. You can see the marvellous job that's been done of the landscaping here. The flatness of a quayside has been turned into all these little pyramids of grass, planted with trees, and as the summer wears on, the blossoms will be rich indeed. The Four Winds, the old pumping station for the hydraulics, for the lifts and for the machinery in the harbour, has been restored to all its beauty. It's now a tram depot for the 5 trams and a wonderful restaurant that looks like a tram inside. That building is based on an old building in Athens, the Tower of the Four Winds, which dates from 500 BC. Flats of Ibrox behind. Skipping, watched by these tall gents, which don't seem to put any fear at all into the youngest person. And if you hear bells and drums, a great deal of them, there are bells and drums all along the esplanade here, and children of all ages, I have to add, are allowed to go and pull and tug them and bash them and ring them and clang them. All vantage points are welcome on an occasion like this. And we even have a vantage point up there on the Finniston crane. Built in 1932, 175 feet high, can lift 175 tons. Used to put the old locomotives made at Springburn aboard ship for countries abroad. So out of the Crystal Pavilion, they're next due to visit the garden next door of the Scottish Development Agency, who have had so much to do with the redevelopment of this site. The Garden Festival Company is in fact a wholly owned subsidiary of the Scottish Development Agency. The role of the SDA is land reclamation and environmental improvement, and if one's talking of that, 1.5 million cubic meters of soil has been used in creating this whole festival site. 28,750 lorry loads were brought from 9 different sites. There is an argument. It might have been 28,749 lorry loads. They ran out of fingers. 3 million plants have been used, 70,000 trees, 350,000 shrubs. The whole site could contain 80 Hampden pots. And here are some exotic blooms. These splendid irises happen to be 24 feet high. They each weigh 1.5 tons. And they're from Glenrothes, the most easterly of the new towns, and the easterly tram stop on this tram loop on the Esplanade. Dr. Graham Durant is the curator of the Hunterian Museum and is in charge of the Crystal Pavilion. The Assistant Director Scotland West of the SDA is Alistair Gilchrist. And they are taking no shortcuts. They're coming to see the garden. Meeting and Looking, that statue is called. It's by the head of sculpture in the Glasgow School of Art. Cliff Bowen. Lots of shelters, as you can see, but hopefully it's going to be a wonderful summer of days like this. Shelters and information points to 22 around the site, all computerized, of course. You can press buttons and find out almost what any plant is. Robert Gordon's Institute of Technology had a lot to do with this exhibit. A lot of evergreens you'll see, used a great deal by the SDA in its land reclamation throughout Scotland. Some of the old and important or very new transport used in land development. Diggers and bulldozers and Royal Fine Art Commission for Scotland's exhibition under these white props behind. You can see that display, the Fine Art Commission there. It's under something, that canopy that looks like a cloud. But design is not under a cloud at this festival. Walking past the rotunda, in the open tram behind number 22, the press. Interesting tram, number 68. It's from Paisley originally. And here they are now going into the Hugh Fraser Tropicarium. Meeting William Mackenzie, the president of the Zoological Society of Glasgow and the West of Scotland. Inside the Tropicarium, the temperature is 73 degrees Fahrenheit. The humidity, 80 degrees. A pond of mud from the bed of the Clyde gives the butterflies that fly freely around a source of minerals. The fruits and plants of a dense tropical forest need less light, but Glasgow Zoo spiders and millipedes and scorpions and stick insects just relish the warmth. as do these plants. Beautiful tropical display. The orchid, festive Glasgow, selectively bred over many years in Glasgow's botanic gardens. Dendrobium, for those that know. It blooms in March and April, not a whisper that Sunday is the 1st of May. Quite complicated to organize the emergence of butterflies to coincide with a royal visit to Mavis Bank Quay. Five botanists were dispatched to Papua New Guinea by the Trades House of Glasgow in the spring of last year. And they brought back 1,000 specimens, and they included these exotic tender young plants. Just a link in the long story of intrepid and courageous plant collecting through the centuries by Scottish gardeners and botanists. So many of the plants that grow wild across Scottish mainland were once exotic strangers from across the world. Not these irises, they're from Glenrothes. One of the three small trains that go on a small gauge railway around the site. So you're beginning to know your way around. The thrill ride, the Crystal Pavilion, environment display behind there, the Under the Cloud, the Fine Arts Commission, the Rotunda, the Festival Pavilion there, where there will be all the flower shows, amateur and professional, through the summer. And you can see a yellow kettle there. Inverclyde District Council. Because who invented the steam engine? James Watt in 1765. And 19 years later, he was centrally heating his office using steam pipes, harnessing the power of steam, which triggered the Industrial Revolution. And many of Watt's inventions were developed within a few miles of this site here on the banks of the Clyde. So, the Tropicarium with the red entrance there. Another thing bred on the banks of the Clyde are splendid Clydesdale horses, and you'll see a lot of them this morning in the parade. And here, Disco and Ben from Kirtlebridge in the Borders. Tom Brewster there with Peter Tennant, and the two boys Brewster are here too. But you know, these horses weigh over a ton each. They're wonderfully gentle beasts, and once there were many tens of thousands in Scotland. Now there are only a few. And these great horses express such joy as they're released for the first time in the spring into their paddock. This is Disco that you just saw pulling the green cart. What a wonderful animal. And so the Prince and Princess, and you just caught a sight there of the Lord Provost of Glasgow, Robert Gray, who must be very proud of his city today. Climbing aboard the tram. And although there were quite strict regulations in the old days about how many people could stand in a tram car, I wonder if you remember that on the last trams there was no limit at all to the number of people that could stand or hang on. Prince Charles's grandfather, George VI, in 1924 drove a tram just like this. It was number 38, along to a mile to Parkhead Depot. When I say it was exactly the same as this, it was, it in fact had a silver control handle. Well, it won't get to Moss Park today, but it's nice to see the old names and the old colours. George Fryer hopefully sounds his bell. A cheer from the children, and when the track is cleared, off they move. Closely followed by the press on their Paisley tram, and in fact a travelling jazz band. Well, you know, when Queen Victoria paid her second and last visit to Glasgow, that was to the 1888 exhibition, she came back privately 2 days after her first official visit, and I feel all the time that this royal couple will be wishing they could just come back anonymously and bring their children and have fun like everybody else and spend as long as they wanted wherever they wanted to be, and to spend as long looking at the things that particularly interest them. And there's so much of interest here. There's Disco and Ben, not frolicking around the fields now, but harnessed up in their show harness. And so past the Celtic Football Club's centenary floral display. Along to the beginning of the High Street. And the old Victorian High Street is spectacular. Look at the towers. This tram stop is named after Irving. And beyond, you can see the Overton Park Bandstand, and you can hear the jazz band on the tram behind. Music everywhere. Water spouts from the fireboat, and in the canting basin you see the rainbow of the Rainbow City there. We were all hoping for sun this morning. The huge fountain that you'll see later on in that canting basin there of Prince's Dock, shooting the River Clyde 210 feet into the air. Old Govan Town Hall over there, the shipyards of Govan on the right, beyond the Clydesdale Bank Anniversary Tower, the cranes. And now they're mounting Royal Barouche for the parade through the High Street. The old carriage there with the original grey leather upholstery is 150 years old. In fact, slightly more, because it dates from something like 1810. And it's provided by Scottmid, who are the famous coach builders to the Royal Mews in Edinburgh. The horses pulling the barouche will be Ranger, he's an old experienced lad of 16, and Harvey, who is 8. They're Irish horses. A break behind. And an escort of Strathclyde mounted policemen. Sergeant Burney and Sergeant Riddell lead off the procession. The state trumpeters, by courtesy of the Lion Court of Scotland, sound of fanfare. And the procession moves into the High Street. See the state trumpeters there with the wonderful banners on their trumpets, Lion of Scotland, and the pipes and drums of Strathclyde Police Pipe Band lead the parade. Coachman is Billy Angus, driving from the box. His assistant is Willie Hamilton, but I don't think that one. And there you see the towers of the High Street. Gardner's Furniture Warehouse, orange. See if you can spot University Tower, Trinity College Tower, St Vincent Street Church Tower, the Tolbooth Tower, and the Tron Steeple. So a splendid horse-drawn parade, and peering over the top there, you'll see Big Rory wheeling in a 9-feet-high pram, Wee Malky. Big Rory moves out of shot. Victorian flower sellers. Flowers everywhere today. And Mercury flower throwers. A new way of saying it with flowers, the Interflora way. Dressed in yellow lycra. Mad Hatter's Tea Party walking along behind. We'll see them later on, sitting having their tea. Police, outriders, and the Royal Barouche. 20 shops in the High Street. Very good shops they are too. Bookshops, confectioners, bakers, the post office, as you can see. And just behind the royal carriage, a break with the VIPs also horse-drawn. George Chestnut explaining it all. Ian Robertson with him. Flower saddles. From the high street into the rendezvous, the heart of the vessel. Alice in a wonderland of flowers. And here's the heart of the wonderland. Steel basket with ribbons billowing from the canopy. The Button Ben of Argyle. BBC studio down there in Glasgow Garden. Rendezvous areas 90 meters in diameter. It is, as the name suggests, the place to meet your friends. And you can watch live performers in the Rendezvous Bowl, an amphitheater in the center, which seats a couple of hundred people. And so they move into the first of the sections, which is plants and food. Big Rory. He was threatening to ask the princess if she would like to swap wee Malky for one of the princes. A bundle of trouble, I would say. The amphitheater is under that central canopy. And the rendezvous crowded with people as they move into the plants and food section through this gateway, each gateway illustrating the section that you enter. And they will pass on the right the Country Lane with Stars by Ian Hamilton Finlay, The Secret Garden by W.G.H. Peebles. People in costume, press photographers. Lovely to see all these period costumes. And so round past the Mediterranean Pavilion. Hexagonal glass house there by Finlay Clark. So, gardens all about them. The Mediterranean Pavilion, the shelter on the right there, as they arrive at the walled garden. An Elizabethan madrigal is sung. the walled garden is the garden of the Professional Gardeners Guild. For centuries, Scotland has produced wonderful gardeners, many of whom have gone abroad and created some of the most spectacular gardens in the world. For centuries, the wealthy designed elegant outdoor rooms in their gardens, box hedges, high walls, as you can see, protect the plants and give an infinite variety of formal shapes. There are 220 professional gardeners in the Gardeners Guild. And this garden has been produced with great pride. The Guild aims to promote the training of young people.
Everything okay outside?
And this garden is a wonderful example of using students to reproduce a garden hinting the styles of the past. And what a contrast to the 1930s Broom Milk Bar, which reminds one of a pavilion in the Empire Exhibition. Prince and Princess of Wales have entered the walled garden. They will listen to the music, but there is another important thing that they have to do here. A beautiful tapestry is being sewn. Princess of Wales has been asked to make the first stitch. The tapestry will consist of 250,000 stitches, each one to be sponsored for £1. Dr. Anne Gilmore, Chief Executive of the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice. That hospice was the city of Glasgow's wedding gift to the Prince and Princess of Wales. And they're now trying to raise money. They've already got a day hospice opened, but they're hoping in the very near future to have a residential hospice for the terminally ill. When the city of Glasgow said they wanted to help to found a hospice in the city as a wedding gift to the Prince and Princess, it was the Queen that suggested it should be called the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice. And while the Prince listens to the beautiful Elizabethan music, the Princess has sewn the first stitch. And later, when it is completed, and perhaps it might raise as much as £250,000. They're trying to raise £800,000, and they've already raised half of that. the tapestry will hang in the Prince and Princess of Wales hostels. A complete switch in era now as they move from the period charm of a walled garden to the world of fashion. And fashion, some of it, although very up-to-date, inspired by the 1930s.
Arabella Pollen is an English lady who started her own company 7 years ago.
That's the voice which you may recognize of Viv Lovenson, who was presenting many of the programs from the garden party programs from the festival site here, and who was introducing the fashion show that the Prince and Princess will look briefly at now.
Her own business, and that's exactly what she did.
The
So we're going to see now a selection of her clothes. They're divided into two categories, very much the sporty special occasion look, something with a little panache, and very much the city look as well, which shows a little of her signatures, which are short jackets, little jackets made out of grosgrain.
Arabella
braided
Pollen,
buttons,
a
some
favorite
classic
designer
lines,
of
but with
the
very much
princesses.
a rebellious streak. So we're going to have a look now at
This,
English designer Arabella Pollen.
Building here was music of the 30s. Yes, the building was a design for MacTaggart and Mickle, the builders, made in 1935. It was never actually built, but it was for the Broome Estate at Newton Mearns, and the house would have cost £1,650. Today, they estimate, in the same handsome location, it would cost something like £165,000. It'll be a milk bar during the Garden Festival, and it's estimated that 10,000 gallons of milk and 100,000 dairy ice creams and at least 15,000 cream teas will be consumed. History of the Rose Pavilion behind, but here you see the fashions being displayed in the gardens of the Broome 1930s house. Quite a nice young gentleman's fashion to the right. Straw hat against the sun. The big Brit Oil pavilion behind. York Hill Hospital on the other side of the Clyde away there. And the Princess of Wales looking very fashionable this morning. Collar and tie, you'll notice. A blue hat and matching coat. So, back onto the barouche. I think probably quite reluctant to tear herself away from the fashion show by 8 designers. And the fashion show goes on, and so does the tour of the Garden Festival. Mediterranean pavilion behind. As they now move off past the History of the Rose, Motherwell College Pavilion with Strathclyde Regional Council, and the huge Brit Oil exhibit. Time trek, plants through the ages, tracing the development of plants from fossils and relating technology to environment awareness. And then through an amazing succession of gardens. I saw the next door garden lie adorned with flowers before my eye, and many pleasant places more that I had never seen before. And certainly, who would have thought that here there would be an Italian garden, and a Japanese garden, and bonsai plants, an Israeli friendship garden, there behind the white screens, an all-seasons garden. The wonderful Italian garden with its mirrors. You can hardly see them there. You just think what an extensive garden, and there they are. Mirrors and voices and music. And so upwards you see the Morrison's Bowmore distillery there in the background, at the head of the loch. Uphill, the royal procession moves now to a place of eminence there. You see the mound from which you can look at the whole festival site. But when the thing you want to look at is below the mound, you come running down instead. And so now we will soon move from plants and food to landscape and scenery. This is the Scottish farm. And here you can see poultry and animals of all sorts. Waterfall in the background as they move through the farm into the landscape and scenery section of the festival. Farm workers stand around. As all through the festival, you will see gardeners pruning hedges, gardeners bending over, and then only when they don't move do you notice that they're models. This is the play barn for children, an old barn. More Clydesdales. Tractors, sheep, Highland cattle, they're all here. And lovely country sounds reach our ears. The waterfall leading under the bridge to the burn. A copse of birch above the waterfall, a friendship contribution from Finland. 28 countries are joining in this not only national garden festival, but international garden festival. Fighting Stags by Sophie Ryder, made from wire. The Antonine Garden. The Scottish Agricultural Industries peat bog. A display of old and new methods of extracting peat. Oh, you can almost smell that wonderful peat smoke. here in the centre of Glasgow. The copper still of the Beaumont distillery. And a single malt Islay whisky has been produced called the Spirit of the Festival. Now, would you believe that that was in the centre of Glasgow? The Lochen restaurant, where the Prince and Princess will have a buffet lunch and sign the visitor's book in just over an hour's time. More music at the Lochen. And opposite the Lochen, the wildflower meadow. And people. People most important of all today. Enjoying the scenery, enjoying the countryside in the heart of the city. Soon coming to the Pavilion of the Countryside Commission for Scotland. Mass of people on the other side of the Lochen. Part of Scotland's countryside in miniature coming up. A little bit of the peninsula of Ardnamurchan. The Scottish Garden of the Glasgow and West of Scotland Horticultural Society, which claims to be one of the oldest in the country, dating from 1812, on the right of the royal couple as they drive now through landscape and scenery. A veritable Highland Games in progress. The Scottish Highland dancers. All of these dancers, champions in their own right. Henry Moore, reclining figure. And a real Glasgow welcome. No shyness, just saying hello. Well, perhaps today we might be forgiven for not calling him the Prince of Wales, but calling him by his other titles, Prince and Great Steward of Scotland, Earl of Carrick, Duke of Rothesay, Baron Renfrew, all names from places doing the water. So through the evergreen to the magical forest of the Forestry Commission. A wonderful display in which you can travel above a forest, through a forest, or even under a forest with the badgers. And there's the marina, the old canting basin of the Prince's Dock. Govan Town Hall on the right-hand side. Government Town Hall, looking splendidly refurbished. Looking over the marina, what a sight. Canting Basin was the turning point for the three main quays off Prince's Dock. And so into the marine and sport section now. Still plenty play areas for the children here. The yachts dressed overall. Mad Hatter's Tea Party going on the royal couple's left. And worth a stop and a look. I'm sure it's a high tea party today. So a brief stop, the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. A smile and on past the children's playground. To the marina with all the excitement that awaits them there. You can see the last of the end of the quays there on the left. And the Prince and Princess will board the Festival Belle, which you see there, Mississippi paddle steamer, to sail across the Prince's Dock, Canting Basin, from the marina here to the jetty below the Clydesdale Bank Anniversary Tower. A few penguins there. Layings are going to redevelop this part of the site, hopefully keeping a bit of the arena. And as they sail across the Princess Dock, well, you'll see the Loch Ness Monster. You'll see a golden dome. That's the golden dome of the Borders Pavilion. You'll see water skiers. You'll see Robinson Crusoe. You'll see Argyle's Button Ben. You'll see the Vital Spark. Parahandy's probably at the Bowmore Distillery with MacPhail. And you'll see the BBC's Festival Beechgrove Garden Pavilion. Nose to nose, beginning to end, that huge piece of sculpture beside Government Town Hall there. Life goes on outside the wall, inside a day out of this world. Safety, inflatable dinghy there. A lot of safety measure here, obviously, with so many members of the public expected during the next 5 months. Children and young people. The other side of the marina you can see on the right-hand side the golden dome there of the Borders Pavilion. Just beside it, the arched roof of the BBC Pavilion, and behind it, the Festival Beechgrove Garden. Vital Spark. Gilmore Hill University behind. So as the battle steamer casts off, splendid skyline of Glasgow behind. That's what makes this sight so wonderful. And they sail across the marina as Gallagher and Lyle sing the song they've written for this special day, You Put the Heart Back in the City. Fountain by Weir pumps on the left there, which can shoot as high as 210 feet into the air. Past new waterfront homes by Laying, and along to an old railway station recreated, the heart of Scotland. So the old and the new mix. Once, as recently as 1967, in a month, there were over 20 arrivals here in Prince's Dock, cargoes from Burma, India, Canada, East Africa, and ships set sail from here for Canada and for America. Well, a shorter voyage for our royal couple today, across the marina to the Clydesdale Bank Anniversary Tower on the right. Every exhibition in Glasgow has to have an observation tower, and this is no exception, but it's perhaps the most exciting of the lot. It marks the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Clydesdale Bank in Glasgow, where its headquarters remain. 240 feet high, and the cabin ascends and revolves as it does so. So you get this wonderful view as we are looking now away to the large cranes of the Govan yards, the most modern yard in Europe, and whose fate is just being decided at this moment. Park terrace behind. Looks so much nearer on our cameras. The Prince and Princess on dry land again with George Chesworth, Chief Executive, and Mr. Ian Robertson and Malcolm Rifkin. Walks up onto the jetty. More immense, gigantic figures there. We won't die, shout the little girls. And who wouldn't? Quite difficult to bow if you're as tall as that without toppling over. So, they've traveled by land, they've traveled by sea, and now they will travel by air. Festival bell moves away to the marina. The royal couple move into the gondola. They'll be accompanied on their journey aloft by the chairman of Clydesdale Bank PLC, Sir Eric Yarrow. Clydesdale Bank, one of the major sponsors of the Glasgow Garden Festival. In fact, the banks of the Clyde have taken on a new connotation in the last few years. So they are aboard. The ride in the tower only takes about 6 minutes. We have liftoff. And what a wonderful view it is from up there. The marina. Laying homes, the heart of Scotland, garden there with the goods train. The British Steel Bridge at the corner of the basin, the West Dock. And away far down, opposite the cranes of Govan, the Meadowside Granary. A splendid view of the gondola turning round. I don't think the Princess of Wales lacks the height. And there is the Clyde being shot 210 feet into the air. You can see it is the kind of sight that makes your toes curl up a little if you don't feel you've got anything much underneath you. Remarkable view of the whole city, the festival site, but the city beyond. And soon they'll be within earshot of the Glasgow Parks Orchestra, which is playing away merrily below. University Tower, Gilmour Hill. And we've landed. Now there's another excitement in prospect. First trip on the Festival Railway. It's only a short railway ride, but the railway itself is a long, continuous loop. It's just over about a mile and a half. 3 stations. Carries, or can carry, about 1,000 persons an hour. 5 coach trains, each coach carrying about 30 people. The locomotive is based on the Caledonian Railway's 422 locomotive number 123. The original locomotive 123 was built in, just 102 years ago, 1886, at the Hyde Park Works of Nielsen and Company at Springburn in Glasgow. And the original is actually in the Kelvin Hall, in the Museum of Transport. The festival trains are well scaled down models. The old locomotive 123 attained the incredible speed of 70 miles an hour on the Edinburgh to London races of 100 years ago. All the trains individually sponsored. And we're off. John McDougall is the driver. He's rejoices in the title of Internal Transport Controller at the Glasgow Garden Festival. Used to work on a narrow gauge steam railway in mid Wales, and he met the Prince and Princess in 1981. splendid sight as the engine moves past lots of other gardens and lots of other pavilions, past the Red Rose County of Lancashire County Council Pavilion, an American pavilion publicizing the 1992 Ameriflora Festival in Columbus, Ohio. City of Wakefield. There's the Lord Provost, Bob Gray. Moving round now to Pavilion Station, and here's a welcome, sung at the Gateshead Pavilion, or just beyond it, by the Glasgow Youth Choir, conducted by Agnes Herring. And suitably in the foreground, the Bank of Scotland's Children of Glasgow fountain. The voices of children welcoming the royal couple to the environs of the Gateshead Pavilion. Gateshead, which will host the next Garden Festival in 1990, when Glasgow will have its hands busy being the European City of Culture. And it's here, beside the Gateshead Pavilion, that the short opening ceremony will take place. The Barclays Merchant City clock tower, which will remain here on the banks of the Clyde, beyond the old Customs House tower on the other side of the bank, which has also been restored and is becoming a restaurant. But this will be a new landmark. An old landmark is there just behind, dressed over all, the Renfrew ferry, one of the most famous Trans-Clyde ships. And beside the pyramid of the Gateshead Pavilion, you see the extraordinary arch and ball of the rolling moon.
I thought the guards were looking rather smart. Yes. There's a lady called Linda Moffat, particularly well organised.
Let's Glasgow,
Never did the civic motto of Glasgow have more meaning than today at this garden festival. Let Glasgow flourish. The Secretary of State for Scotland, the Right Honourable Malcolm
Your
Rifkin.
Royal Highnesses, Lord Provost, ladies and gentlemen, it is with the very greatest of pleasure that I welcome Your Royal Highnesses to this, the official opening of the Glasgow Garden Festival. As Your Royal Highnesses have toured the exhibition this morning, you will have seen the tremendous enthusiasm and excitement which all who are present today are experiencing. And that is a tribute to those who have been responsible for the superb organization of what I believe will be the most superb garden festival that the United Kingdom has seen. But today is also a celebration of the tremendous changes that have taken place in Glasgow over the last few years. Many people have contributed towards these changes and have shown a degree of commitment in bringing about the transformation in this great city of Scotland. That commitment has been shown by the government, by the City of Glasgow District Council, by Strathclyde Regional Council, the Scottish Development Agency, the local business community, and many others. But most of all, it has been a commitment which has been shown by the people of Glasgow themselves, who with the recognized enthusiasm, imagination, and initiative that is synonymous with the city of Glasgow, has brought about a regeneration in this great city that all have enjoyed seeing and experiencing. When the government decided to award the third National Garden Festival to the city of Glasgow and to take responsibility for its organization, it did so as a tribute to the tremendous developments that have already taken place within this city over the years. And today we see not only the regeneration of a crucial part of the docklands of inner Glasgow, but we see also a facility that will bring a long-term contribution towards this part of this city in a way that will be of benefit to future generations as well. But today is not only a historic event for the city of Glasgow, because this Glasgow Garden Festival is also a great national event for Scotland as well. And as will have been seen during the course of this morning, many of the towns and country areas of Scotland are also participating in this great garden festival. Over the next 5 months, quite literally millions of people will visit Glasgow, will visit this festival, and indeed we hope will also visit other parts of Scotland. And in so doing, they will show to Scotland, to the United Kingdom, and to the world community as a whole the tremendous amount that Glasgow has to offer and that Scotland has to offer. Your Royal Highnesses, you have done the city of Glasgow and Scotland as a whole a very great honor by agreeing to be the royal patrons of this great garden festival. You will already have seen the tremendous enthusiasm with which your visit has been received and the tremendous appreciation of the identification that you are making with the regeneration of this great city. It is therefore with very great pleasure indeed that I invite your Royal Highness to now declare this Garden Festival formally open. Secretary of State, ladies and gentlemen, my wife and I are delighted to be in Scotland today to officially open the Glasgow Garden Festival. If anyone needed reminding that Glasgow's miles better, this event must represent yet another milestone in the renaissance of this great city. It equally represents a milestone for urban regeneration in our country, demonstrating how enterprise, environmental improvement, and a spirit of partnership can change the fortunes of old industrial areas. I hope that the many people and their families who visit this garden festival from Glasgow, elsewhere in our country, and from overseas will be able to see just what can be achieved by partnership. In this case, thanks to the enterprise and imagination of government, the City of Glasgow, Strathclyde Regional Council, the many business sponsors, and the driving force of the Scottish Development Agency, a remarkable change has been achieved in developing a derelict riverbank into a magnificent living park. From the visits I have made to many examples of urban regeneration in this country and in other parts of the world, I've always been impressed at how certain ingredients are always present in projects which really work. The partnership ingredient, for example, with government, business, and the community working together, recognizing that they have more to gain from collaboration in creative projects than they might have thought. Providing opportunities for local people is another essential ingredient. For no regeneration project can work unless it builds on the strength and pride of the community, and in many cases, unless it recreates a lost sense of community. We all know what happened in the recent past when huge redevelopment schemes obliterated splendid 19th century buildings and dispersed and destroyed long-established communities. The effect of such comprehensive schemes, which seem to ignore to a certain extent the feelings of local people, are so tellingly evoked, I think, by the folk songs of Adam McNaughton. I can't resist quoting one of them with apologies for failing to do justice to the dialect. Oh, where is the Glasgow where I used to stay, wi' white wally closes done up wi' piped clay, where ye knew all your neighbours frae first floor to third, and to keep your door locked was considered absurd. Do you know the folks living upstairs for you? Or where is the wee shop where I used to buy a quarter of tatties and a fourpenny pie, a bag of broken biscuits and 3 soddy scones, and the women I asked, how's your man getting on? Can your big supermarkets give service like that? But I hope that the creative energy which has gone into the improvement of the centre of Glasgow can spread to meet the other challenge of regeneration in the surrounding communities. The principles of partnership, community involvement, and environmental improvement are applicable on a wider basis. The transformation visible in Glasgow's East End demonstrates that change is possible here and elsewhere. This garden festival, sadly, has to be impermanent, but I hope that its spirit and inspiration will to some extent live on in the buildings and environment which follow it, in an architecture which will reintroduce delight and pleasure into the surroundings through the work of artists, craftsmen, and architects
who, rather than feel ashamed about the use of decoration and embellishment, will take pride in such things, and who will find inspiration in the forms of nature that surround us. In this way, and by such an example, Glasgow may once again give us cause to recall Daniel Defoe's description of it 250 years ago as the cleanest and beautifulest and best built city in Britain. My wife and I congratulate all those who have worked so hard for this event and have great pleasure in declaring the Glasgow Garden Festival 1988 open.
Encouraging words from Prince Charles as church bells ring, ships' sirens sound. From the skies will come 50,000 flowers upon the city. Italian carnations, pink, peach, and rose. And here comes the plane. The Rapide flying right up the river. 500 feet. Flowers falling upon the city. And when the plane is passed, into the skies will float 30,000 balloons, fireworks, confetti, streamers. There's wind in the sails, and the Garden Festival by the Clyde, after all the hard work and the moving of mountains of rubble and despair, is underway. The voices of the small singers of Agnes Hoey's Glasgow Youth Choir, joined by kilted scouts from the gang show. And it's really possible to believe, with Gallagher and Lyle, that the heart is already back in this warm, generous, adventurous, good-natured old city. Glasgow has looked at itself in the mirror on this sunny April day and is getting quite a pleasant surprise from the smiling face it sees. And if you can't believe your television screen, you've got 150 days to come and see for yourself.
Tally of the number of visitors who've come to the Glasgow Garden Festival over the summer. That is 4,345,820. A fantastic number, and more than 1 million more than was expected. With me now, watching this magnificent firework display start off, is Rob Reid, who's PR manager for the festival. Rob, this looks like it's a pretty spectacular evening, and 60,000 people turned out to see it as well.
Yes, we like to end with a bang rather than with a whimper at the Garden Festival.
Well, we've had rain, we've had wind, we've had awful conditions over July and August. What's made people come out?
Well, we're delighted with the festival itself, and we've had a fantastic response from the people of Glasgow and of Scotland. And what has been marvellous is the way in which they've turned out, rain or shine. May and June were terrific months, but they kept coming in July and August, and we're absolutely delighted with it.
And what are going to be your personal memories? What has stuck out in your mind?
Oh, I think seeing in evenings like this, when we've got thousands of people here, happy smiling faces, seeing the visitors having a good time, that's been the main message for us.
And what have been the most popular events during the festival? What have people really liked best?
Well, I think our main features, the Clydesdale Bank Tower, the Coca-Cola roller, the trains and the trams, they've all been very popular. In fact, they've gone non-stop.
Now, if we had the benefit of hindsight and we put you back at the beginning of the year again, what would you do different?
Oh, I think find a way to compress 3 or 4 years into one. That's what we do. You never ever have enough time.
Now, you must have been asked this loads of times, but what has gone wrong? I know you're going to tell me, oh, nothing, but there must have been things that have given you a few sweaty moments.
No, in fact, we've got away with it. It'll be all right in the night, as they say, and it's always worked for us, as you can hear now. But there's been a few occasions when we've had some near misses, but we get there in the end.
Well, as we're nearly drowned out here by what's happening behind us, let's take a moment and watch the fireworks. And that's all from the Glasgow Garden Festival 1988. Gateshead, of course, takes up the banner in a couple of years' time, but we leave you from the biggest single consumer event in the UK. Good night. We'll be back tomorrow with another Reporting Scotland.